Jessica's suitcases were gone when I got home. That was the first thing I noticed. The hallway closet door stood half open, empty space where her blue roller bag always leaned. The apartment felt quieter than it should have, like it was holding its breath. I called her name once, softly, already knowing there would be no answer. The bathroom counter was clear. No makeup brushes, no perfume bottle shaped like a tiny glass heart. In the closet, her dresses were missing, leaving thin gaps between my shirts. On the kitchen table sat a single sheet of notebook paper. 7 sentences, that was all it took to end 5 years. She'd met someone at yoga, someone fun, someone who wasn't always tired. She hoped I'd understand. She had already taken her things. She was sorry. I read it twice. Then a third time, slower, as if the words might change if I stared long enough. My name is Daniel Harper, and that Tuesday in March split my life into before and after. I called in sick the next morning. I couldn't imagine walking into the office and pretending everything was fine. My phone kept buzzing on the coffee table, emails piling up, messages from my team asking about deadlines. A calendar reminder for a client call. Life, moving forward without asking if I was ready. By Thursday I had to go in. Vertex Technologies sits in a glass building downtown. 3 floors of open desks, meeting rooms with whiteboards covered in diagrams, and the constant hum of people building things that matter. I had been there 6 years. Started young, full of plans. Now I led product development, 12 people depending on me to know what came next. Victoria Chun founded Vertex. She was brilliant and steady and a little intimidating. She remembered everything. If you mentioned an idea months ago, she'd bring it back when the timing was right. She had a way of listening that made you feel like your words carried weight. 2 years earlier, when I was promoted, we began working closely. Long afternoons in her office, cups of tea growing cold while we solved problems. She always remembered I took mine with honey and lemon. I had mentioned it once. Sometimes on quiet Friday evenings when most people had gone home, we talked about things beyond code and timelines. Her parents' restaurant. My old Canon camera I was restoring piece by piece. Dreams I never said out loud to anyone else. I told myself those conversations were harmless. She was my boss. I was engaged. Life was orderly. But when I walked into her office that Thursday after Jessica left, I wasn't prepared for the look on her face. It wasn't frustration. It was concern. "Close the door, Daniel," she said gently. "I heard about Jessica." And in that quiet room, with the city stretching wide behind her, something inside me began to crack in a way I didn't expect. Not from losing Jessica, but from being seen, and I didn't yet know how much that would matter. I couldn't speak at first, I just nodded and sat down. Victoria folded her hands on the desk. "I called your brother," she said. "I hope that wasn't overstepping." It should have felt strange. A CEO calling my emergency contact, but it didn't. It felt steady, practical, like someone turning on a light in a dark room. "I'm sorry," she continued. "This is a lot to carry." No one had said that to me yet. Friends texted. Coworkers asked polite questions. But no one had named the weight of it. "Here's what we're going to do," she said. "Work from home Monday through Thursday. Come in Fridays for what truly matters. Deadlines can move. People can adjust. You don't have to be made of steel." I stared at her. This was the same woman who once kept a team in the office through a holiday weekend to protect a contract. She had a reputation for being exact and demanding, but right then she was simply kind. She handed me a business card. "A therapist my friend saw during her divorce. Insurance covers it." I took the card carefully like it might break. "You're valuable here," she said, "but more than that, you're a person. Don't forget that." That arrangement saved me. Working from home meant I could fall apart without an audience. Some mornings I answered emails from the couch, still in pajamas. Other days I managed only the bare minimum before staring at the wall for an hour, replaying Jessica's note in my head. I boxed up her leftover things slowly. A sweater she forgot, a chipped coffee mug, hair ties scattered like small evidence of a life that had been there. Victoria checked in often. At first it was about work. "How's the Johnson report coming?" Then it shifted. "Did you eat today?" "Go outside for 10 minutes. One night around midnight my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. "I saw you were still online," she said. "You okay?" We talked through a presentation I'd been stuck on. She untangled it in minutes, calm and focused. But when the work was done, she didn't hang up. "I watched a documentary about a photographer who traveled after his divorce," she said. "Made me think of you." No one had ever connected my quiet hobby to something bigger. So I told her about the old Canon camera, about loading film in darkness, about how repairing tiny mechanical parts made my mind quiet in a way meetings never could. She listened, really listened. That call lasted nearly 2 hours. After that, she called more often. Late nights, when the world felt smaller and easier to talk in. We started with work. We ended somewhere else entirely. I told myself she was just being a good leader, a supportive boss, nothing more. But I began to wait for those calls. And when her name lit up my screen, my chest felt lighter in a way I couldn't explain. 5 months passed like that. Slowly, the sharp edge of Jessica's absence dulled. The apartment stopped feeling like a place someone had escaped from and started feeling like somewhere I lived again. I went back to therapy. I bought fresh rolls of film. On quiet Sundays, I walked through the city taking pictures of ordinary things. Laundry on balconies, old brick walls, sunlight catching in puddles. Work steadied too. I came into the office more often. My team relaxed around me again. Deadlines were met. Projects moved forward. Then one Monday morning everything shifted. We were called into the large conference room, every chair filled. Victoria stood at the front, calm and clear. "We're acquiring Nextcore Systems," she announced. The room buzzed. Nextcore was our biggest competitor. Different software, different structure, different way of doing everything. Victoria's eyes found mine. "Daniel Harper will lead the technology integration." My stomach dropped. After the meeting, I caught up with her in the hallway. "Victoria, this is huge. I'm not sure I'm ready." "You are," she said simply. "You understand our systems better than anyone. I trust you." Trust, that word landed heavy. The work began immediately. 4 teams, endless calls, systems that refused to cooperate, code that fought back every time we tried to connect it. My days stretched longer, 15 hours, then 16. Coffee became dinner. Sleep became a rumor. The late-night calls changed. They were shorter, sharper, focused only on problems. "You sound tired," she said once. "I'm fine," I answered, even though my hands were shaking. My apartment grew messy again. Dishes stacked, laundry unfolded. My camera sat untouched on the shelf, dust gathering along the lens. Mistakes crept in. A missed email. A wrong attachment. Then bigger errors. During one executive presentation, my mind went blank halfway through a sentence. I could see faces on the screen waiting for me to finish a thought that had disappeared. Victoria's expression stayed steady, but I knew she noticed. Sleep left me completely. I would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, running timelines through my head. My chest felt tight all the time, like I was bracing for something. The big integration presentation to Nextcore executives came on a Wednesday morning. I had slept 2 hours. When I opened the meeting link, 20 faces stared back. I began talking. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Slides blurred, dates tangled. I lost my place, started over, lost it again. At one point, I couldn't remember a basic timeline I had memorized for months. My hands trembled so badly I had to hide them under the desk. The call ended early. I sat there staring at the blank screen, heart racing, breath shallow. This isn't working, I thought. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about Jessica. I was thinking about how I had disappeared inside my job, and I wasn't sure how to find myself again. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Jessica's note came back to me in pieces. "You're always tired. You're never really here." At the time, I had told myself she was exaggerating, that hard work was temporary, that things would slow down soon. But lying there in the dark, I had to admit something. I didn't know how to slow down. At 2 in the morning, I got up and opened my laptop. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I stared at a blank document for a long time before I began typing. It wasn't dramatic, no anger, no blame. Just the truth. I was exhausted. I was losing myself. I needed to step away before there was nothing left of me except deadlines and email threads. I read the letter 5 times before saving it. My finger hovered over delete. 6 years at Vertex. A career I had built carefully. A salary that made life comfortable. But comfort wasn't the same as living. The next morning I asked for a meeting with Victoria. Her office looked the same as always. Bright city skyline behind her. Neatly arranged desk. Calm presence. "What's going on?" she asked. I placed the envelope in front of her before I could change my mind. My resignation, 2 weeks. She didn't open it. She just looked at me. Is this about the presentation? She asked quietly. No, it's about me. I explained as steadily as I could. The exhaustion, the mistakes, the feeling of shrinking inside a role that once felt exciting. She listened without interrupting. We can adjust the workload, she said finally. I'll hire more people. We'll restructure. It's not the workload, I replied. I need to leave completely. I need space to figure out who I am when I'm not working. Silence settled between us. You don't have another job lined up? She asked. No. She picked up the envelope then, holding it gently. You're one of the best leaders we have, she said. Losing you will hurt the company. She paused. It will hurt me. The way she said it made my chest tighten. But I nodded. This isn't your fault. She stood, walked around the desk, and for a moment it felt like she might say something else. Something not about business. Instead, she straightened slightly. I understand, she said. Your well-being comes first. I left her office with a strange mix of relief and grief. My last 2 weeks passed quietly. Goodbyes, handovers, a lunch where my team signed a card and tried to joke about how I'd be back in a month. Victoria stayed professional, polite in meetings, no late-night calls, no private conversations. On my final Friday, HR collected my badge. And just like that, 6 years ended with a cardboard box in my hands. I walked out into the sunlight feeling lighter and lonelier than I expected. The first morning without work felt strange. I woke at 7 out of habit, reached for a laptop that wasn't there. For a moment I forgot. Then it came back all at once. No emails, no meetings, no deadlines waiting to be solved. Just quiet. I made eggs and toast and sat at the small kitchen table. I chewed slowly, listening to the sound of my fork against the plate. It felt like I was a guest in my own life. By 9 o'clock, I didn't know what to do with myself. I tried watching television, tried reading a book I'd bought months earlier. My eyes moved across the page, but nothing stayed. The hours stretched long and thin. Tuesday was worse. I slept until 10, let the dishes sit in the sink, walked from room to room without purpose. I had wanted freedom, but freedom without direction felt empty. On Wednesday, my brother Tyler showed up at my door. Get your shoes, he said. We're going hiking. I'm fine, I told him. You're not, he answered gently. We drove out of the city and walked a narrow trail through trees that smelled like damp earth. We didn't talk much at first, just walked. Let the steady climb quiet our thoughts. At the top, we sat on a flat rock overlooking the valley. You want to tell me what's really going on? Tyler asked. I picked up a small stone and rolled it between my fingers. It's not just the job, I said. It's her. Victoria? I nodded. We talked a lot these past months. Late nights, real things. And when I quit, she just stepped back. Didn't even say goodbye properly. Tyler was quiet. Maybe she didn't know how, he said finally. Or maybe she cared more than you think. I let out a small laugh. She's a CEO, Ty. I was her employee, that's all. Is it? The question lingered between us. When he dropped me off that evening, he paused before I got out of the car. If she matters that much, he said, maybe tell her. I shook my head. Too late. That night I ordered pizza and sat on the couch scrolling through old messages. The last text she'd sent was simple. You'll do great tomorrow. I had replied with a thumbs up. It felt unfinished somehow. At 8:17 p.m. the doorbell rang. I assumed it was the delivery driver. I didn't check the peephole. I opened the door, and there she was. Standing in the rain. Victoria stood there, rain dripping from her hair onto my doormat. For a moment neither of us spoke. The hallway light caught the water on her coat. She looked smaller somehow, less like the woman who filled boardrooms and more like someone who had walked a long way without being sure she should. You could leave the office, she said softly, but not me. I must have looked confused because she added almost in a rush, May I come in? I stepped aside. My apartment suddenly felt very honest. A pizza box on the coffee table. Camera parts spread across old newspaper. Laundry folded halfway and forgotten. I wanted to apologize, but she was already looking around with something like relief. It feels real, she said. She held a folder against her chest. When she handed it to me, I opened it without understanding what I was looking at. A job proposal. A new role focused on employee wellness. Flexible hours. Remote. I created it, she said, because what happened to you shouldn't happen to anyone here again. I looked up. You could have emailed this. I know. Rain tapped against the windows. The room felt very small. "This isn't only about the job," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. "When you resigned, I realized something. Those late-night calls, they weren't just check-ins. They were the best part of my day." My heart started to beat harder. "I waited until you left because I didn't want to influence your decision," she continued. "You needed to choose yourself. If I'd said anything sooner, it wouldn't have been fair." I closed the folder and set it aside. "I thought I imagined it," I admitted, "the way those conversations felt." "You didn't." She took a breath that seemed to cost her something. "I drove past your building twice before I parked. I've never done anything like this." That was when I understood. This wasn't a grand gesture, it was a quiet one. Careful, scared. I stepped closer. "You're not my boss anymore." "No," she said, almost a whisper. "So what are you?" She looked at me like she didn't have a prepared answer. Like she was stepping off a ledge without knowing how far the ground was. "Someone who cares about you," she said. The words settled between us, simple and heavy. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, something shifted. Not dramatic, not loud. Just two people standing close enough to feel the same breath. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The rain softened outside, turning into a steady hush against the windows. Victoria stood in the middle of my small living room. No assistants. No meetings waiting. No title attached to her name. Just a woman who had come here without knowing how this would end. "I almost didn't knock," she admitted quietly. "I sat in my car for 40 minutes. I told myself this was inappropriate, that you just went through enough, that I should let you have your space. And yet," I said gently, "and yet I couldn't leave. I made tea because it gave my hands something to do." The kettle hummed, and for the first time in weeks, the sound didn't feel rushed. She leaned against the counter and watched me like she was trying to memorize something small and ordinary. "You look different," she said. "Different how?" "Lighter," she replied, "even with the mess." I smiled at that. We sat on the couch, mugs warming our hands. No big speeches, no plans. Just quiet honesty. "I've spent my whole life building things that make sense," she said. "Companies, systems, growth charts. Feelings don't come with spreadsheets." "They don't need to," I said. "They just need room." She nodded slowly. "I didn't want to ask you to stay at Vertex for me," she added. "That wouldn't have been fair. I needed you to be free to say yes or no." "And if I say yes?" I asked. Her expression softened in a way I had never seen inside those glass office walls. "Then we start slowly," she said. "Dinner, conversations, no expectations beyond that." It sounded almost simple. I reached for her hand. She didn't hesitate. For months I had felt like I was falling behind in my own life. Like I was always running towards something I never quite reached. Sitting there with rain on the windows and tea growing cold between us, I felt still, not finished, not certain, just present. "Dinner tomorrow?" she asked. 7, I said. "I'll be ready." When she left later that night, I stood at the window and watched her walk to her car. She looked up once and waved. I waved back. The apartment didn't feel empty anymore. My phone buzzed. "Tyler, you okay?" I typed back slowly. Yeah, I think I am. If this story felt close to home, stay with us. There are always more quiet moments waiting here at Stories from the Heart.